sing hello, good morning. It is I, Katie Z, here to say hello to you. I have a couple different cameras on me right now. We're going to see how I do. Hi, Griffin. Hi, Mystic. How are you today? I'm Katie. We're hanging out. I found my lady. This is a model of one whole human. And I am all about resonance in the nervous system, not regulation. So I just wanted to jump on and say good morning. And I've got some cards with me today. I'd like to answer some questions. I said I had cards and they're not right in front of me. My goodness. Hello, Isabel, Jimmy, Greg. It is not Friday. No, it's Thursday. I thought it was Friday. Hi, Jewel. Hello. Tell me how you're doing today. Let's pick a card of perfection because circles are always infinite, but squares may or may not be. That is my rule. It doesn't have to be yours. Oh my. This says, oh, perfect. Luminous grace and spiritual love awaken and embrace through me in a delectable divine offering of hope and healing for all beings. What a pretty thing to say. So we've got a lot going on. Gravity is happening. Winter is happening where I live. I watched Interstellar for the 27 millionth time last night. I don't know how many of you have that as a comfort film. It's its anniversary. People are watching that movie in massive IMAX theaters. I could not, that would be so much input, so much media, but that's probably beautiful to look at like in outer space or in under the ocean. Every time I watch Interstellar, I understand gravity more, or I feel like I do. Gregory. Oh, I love it. Is it Gregory? Is that how I say your name with that really cool spelling? That is so cool. Yeah, but you know what I love about Interstellar? I saw a video recently. Gregory, thank you. Gregory. I saw a theory about it that that Interstellar is this guy's death process. Like he passes away in that original crash that he had. So I was watching it with that lens yesterday. Like, oh, is this like a mortality thing? Gray. Yes, your nieces and nephews are fun. Gray. We used to do something called the Gucci slap when I was in high school. My friend had a Gucci wallop and he would smack our bums. For some reason that reminded me, oh, look, Norman's here to get in the way. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna pull a couple more cards. And then tonight at 6:00 Eastern time, I'm gonna come on and guide the healing sounds and the healing smile, but also some simple, like you barely need to get out of a chair, shapes you can make with your body that are good for the fascia, for our connective tissue, that don't necessarily force athleticism or pain for those of us who may be experiencing pain. Interstellar is a very good movie to watch. Very good movie to watch. I have to say, I'm not the James Cameron fan. So many folks are. I'm not sure why. Look what I got. I got the Earth horse. And then it says, stirring the cauldron. Do you see that? Stirring the cauldron. The cauldron, this is a deck of all of the Chinese zodiac animals and elements. I love it. The cauldron is our inner cauldron. It's a little, I think of them like this because these are what I have around my house. Hi, Taylor, Eric, Mary, Pinky. Nice to see you back. Cauldron. like a witch's cauldron, like doil, boil, toil, and trouble, fire, burn, and cauldron bubble. Eye of newt and ear of frog. I can't remember if I'm a something or a log. That's not the poem. It's not the poem. But the concept of a cauldron. So when I first started to want to actually be present for my body rather than just like get through life with it, I'm not saying that any of you are not that or need to be. You've been praying to figure out spirit animal. You heard an owl. That is amazing. Greg, tell me what your birth month and year are, and I'll tell you what the Chinese divination says. I do have to ask a Chinese divination entity online, though, because I don't do that math. It's very complicated. But you don't know if it was for you. July 1982. I could also do your whole Lo Shu reading if you want. Oh, I need your birth date. I'm so sorry because this is a, I guess there are 2 zodiacs in July of 1982. So the Chinese New Year was, it was the year of the dog. Oh, so you're the dog. You're a water dog. July 22, 22. Just your basic thing is that you're a water dog. So those elements, water, fire, wood, metal, and earth, in Chinese cosmology, and I keep saying Chinese cosmology and China, because these frameworks, if you enjoy a good pattern, you are going to love this stuff, truly. Every time I see a 3, I can make an assumption. Every time I see it's 12, I can make an assumption. The 5, the number 5 is all of the elements in our bodies. And those map to the 5 major organs of our viscera, like all the mushy bits in here. So I want to describe the cauldron, and then I will do your Lo Shu. It's July 22, 82, right? Let's be proud of me for remembering anything. I don't really have short-term memory to the degree that I would like it. This is a cauldron. We'll just call it a cauldron. It's a singing bowl. It's a musical instrument. 722, powerful. Double ones, 11. So do you see how you can like hear this? I can put stuff in it. I can wash it, and I could even throw it off a truck and it would probably be okay. This is made with metal. I wouldn't, because it's an instrument, but it's not very precious or fragile, right? It's a hardy. Yeah. Okay. Then we have something like this, which I have painted, but this is a crystal bowl. Okay. We see a lot of these with the skinny white yoga chicks, which I can be sometimes. This is precious. This was fired. This is glass. If I drop it, it'll shatter, but it has a very precise tone. Like you can hear, it's a sound, it's a note. The inner cauldron, so that's like an exterior cauldron, I guess you could say. But the inner cauldron, and which is also why I've chosen this material, it's not as precise. Ooh, cool, it made your head tingle. This from a Taoist cosmology, like metaphysics, but also just like practical acupuncture. This is much more the nature of the energy center in Taoism. So we have chakras from India. They're those amazing spinning flowers that go up and down the spine. We have other ideas from other places. This cauldron, we have 3 of them. One in our belly, all the way down, like if you have a uterus-ish. If you don't have a uterus or your uterus isn't menstruating like mine, it's just a zone. It's a zone in the belly, a zone in the abdomen. It's a zone that is yours and mine as soon as we are born. You don't need to do anything to have an inner cauldron. It's called a dantian. If you are aware of the martial arts, you might have heard the word hara. Okay, everybody has one. We also have one in our hearts, little cauldron here, and in our brains, it's called the crystal palace. Okay, if I'm using something on the outside, I really have to pay attention with it, but just knowing it's on the inside. When I was introduced to this as an idea, everything that I don't understand having to do with what the frick is a feeling, where am I don't know where I'm feeling that. Am I even having a feeling? So much dissociation, really, as a young person, dissociation, as well as pain. And also the label, what is it? Alexithymia, where you have a hard time identifying emotions. I was well into my 20s when I found this stuff. I'm now in my 50s. Is that our feeling, or are we picking it up from someone else? Exactly. And if we're picking it up, should it be mine or should I leave it? Something I started to say, I'm going to tell you exactly the week. It was 7/7/7. It was July 7, 2007. I had a wealthy boyfriend. He took me to Aspen, Colorado, darlings. It was the summer, so it was off season. We went to this big conference that had like all the big self-help people were in it. At the time, that was like John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, Marcy Shimoff, a lot of the folks that you've seen in that movie, The Secret, if you've ever watched The Secret. And that week, I was having a very challenging time with my experience of empathy or empathness, which I genuinely have a difficult time believing. Like, oh, I'm so empathetic because of all of my childhood trauma, not because I don't think being an empath exists, but whatever empathy I have stems from early childhood shock and awe and like, oh my gosh, my brother is sick and my dad is sick. And it was just a very wiggly childhood as far as the medical trauma around me. And Greg, somebody gave me the phrase, when like a feeling comes on, not comes up, right? When it's like, oh, what am I receiving? I'm getting a thing. It's if this is mine, let me keep it. If it isn't, let it be. And then all I have to do is just like say the thing. If this is mine, okay, great. If it's not, let it be. Over time, I have found that to feel like a really great way to have my little bubble of protection around me in the world without having to also have some sort of like aggressive, ready to go protection happening. That it's just like, hey man, I don't need the noodly appendages of other people's crap all the time. So if it's not mine, I don't want it. That has been so useful. It doesn't help me have a feeling though. It helps me not be influenced or experience the influence of other people's energy. Naturally transmute and alchemize others' people. Wow. I would love to hear about how you alchemize other people's feelings. Because, and it's just because of when I contemplate alchemy, I am contemplating life, like whatever animates the tissue that makes us alive. And personally, I always just like stay this way unless I'm genuinely wanting to change somebody else's, like if they've asked for it. But I mean, like we all have the same words and they have different meanings too, which is really fucking can be frustrating, right? How many of you, I do all the time, I'll have a conversation. I have a really good friend. I mean, I've known this person for like 20 years, okay? Not 2 weeks ago, we were on the phone having one of our check-in calls. We both have bizarre memory gaps. Mine is due to a stroke and isolated cancer treatment during COVID. Like I just did, which they have needed. The electrodes do little zaps in your brain. Oh my gosh, spiritual perspective weaves the threads. You are so made for this experience. Everybody is. But there's a main character in this alchemy spiritual perspective called the Weaver. Look at her right here. She's called the Weaver, and she has a thread. And she weaves our immune system and our experience of our fascia and our tissue, which is also how we experience the world, is through our connective tissue. This is Katie's perspective. Okay, my personal perspective. Yes, I bet they do feel good around you. I bet they do. Spiritual was sharing that I'm going to infer some things based on your words, and you'll tell me, please, if I'm inaccurate. Whatever mojo, magical mystical is what I call it, whatever magical mystical spiritual perspective has going on, the lived experience of folks around them is ease. It becomes easier. That is almost always a factor of relaxation and an experience of space. Weave energy in their favor. This whole thing is woven in favor of human. So this weaver here, depending upon how we're reading this chart, you can get copies of this in my free stuff, as well as there's a $20 crash course that has a media library as well. But she can do a whole bunch of things. Energy through the chat. Yes. Weave the energy. Weave to neutral. Yay! You have all the free stuff. That's awesome. I don't think I put a copy of this in the free stuff because this isn't my image. Even if it's free, I just didn't feel good about sharing other people's things. But this weaver, and then here's our inner child on the bridge. Child on the star bridge. Our Hara, the Dantian I was discussing recently, the energy center. I'm going to actually have to excuse myself to the girls' room here in a second. But our energy center is like this. So I'll be right back. My cat may sit on the couch here so that you can say hi to him. That's Norman. Norman. Thank you all. Okay. So back to the cauldron. My cat's having a meltdown. Norman's having a meltdown. Hello. Cauldron. This cauldron here in my hand, as a metaphor, corresponds to this location in our body, which is a metaphor. So metaphor corresponds to metaphor in a fact. Okay, the fact that you and I exist, that's the fact. The fact that somebody made this art is also a fact. How you relate to it, that's the metaphor. That's where you get to create your own experience. From a medicinal perspective, from an inner child perspective, this chart, just looking at this, the way it guides our eyes, I will give you a sec. Yeah, give me 1 sec. The way it guides our eyes, because it's so wiggly wobbly, is very, I believe, it's relaxing for the retina, for the back of our eye, in that whatever the geometry of this is like complexity, not chaos. The 4 yin and yang are, they get translated many different ways. The way I like to understand these is there are 5 elements. The first one is earth. That's this whole chart. This whole chart. This whole chart as earth is representing soma, like the physical aspect of our body, not necessarily the stuff that animates it. Then we have water, fire, wood, and metal. So each of these yin and yang, one of them is each of those 4 elements. This is very much like if you and I are just sitting together, there's the awareness that you're sitting. I call that sense of that you're on something. And there's the awareness that there's a me sitting. So soma, self, spirit. Soma as in just the body and the environment. This is, yes, it would, this is sacrum is down here. So this is the base. This would be the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. The crown in this, if I was to place the crown chakra on the body here, it would be right on top of the mountains. It wouldn't be in the brain. This system has vessels though. So there are 3 main ones. So we have this one here, then there's one here, then there's a teeny tiny one in our head. The water is for sacral. And also, do you see the fire in the spine right here? This is called the gate of life. The gate of life. The gate of life is all the sexy fun time, of course. This is Taoism. I'm teaching Chinese medicine through ancient, older than acupuncture yoga. And my cat's having a meltdown. You're welcome. There are free materials up in the tree place, as well as a $20 media library from just stuff that I've written over the last several years that you can use. And yeah. So the chart, just to give you a definition of this, it's called the Neijing 2, Neijing-TU, Neijing 2. It's called the chart of the inner landscape or the inner warp. Inner warp as in our fascia. Thank you. It's about our fascia, connective tissue specifically. It's also about, I believe, the wandering aspect of the vagus nerve. So if you're at all attuned to polyvagal theory or nervous system regulation, we really don't need to regulate, but we'll get there. The nervous system just does nervous system. Yeah, just like the cat does cat. What do you need, Buddy? What are you having a meltdown about? He's having other side of the body, especially in the hip, shoulder, jaw, face, on one side. We don't typically have a perfectly bilateral symmetry, even though we're kind of built that way, depending on life. And also, sorry, I'm not doing co-host right now. Life and also like just existing. One side of your body, the jaw, the head. Oh, I can show you. How do I want to show that to you? And we can look at it this way. Here's your jaw. Here's your neck. That's your esophagus. It's called the 12-storied pagoda. This tube, it's a big tube in our body, goes, and then it separates into our stomach and our lungs. Esophagus, trachea, I don't remember how that happens. There's like when we swallow, it's an amazing thing that we do as a species. Sir, y'all look at him. Just give him a little. So this 12-storied pagoda, this chart, like in this form, this looks like it's like a pastoral environment. You can see all of the creatures and the entities and the spaces like very, very clearly drawn and rendered. This is a rendering. The chart itself is not that beautiful. It is more this. So here's that same area again, this 12-storied pagoda. And here's your jaw. This way, this 12-storied pagoda is also pointing towards our inner ear experience right here, the inner ear. Vestibulocochlear, one of my favorite words right now. But the pagoda goes up. And it has 12, okay? Just like the number of cranial nerves that we have. Our cranial nerves are like our olfactory nerve, our vestibulocochlear, the trigeminal nerve that gives us the TMJ pain. There's an accessory nerve, the vagus nerve, occipital, oculomotor. There are so many. There are 12. Just like there are 12 signs of the zodiac. Now, I don't know how many other pattern recognizers we have here, but there is no way something like that is an accident if it's coming from China and has anything to do with alchemy. No way. Because the way that, as a scholar, art historian, okay, not even as an alchemist, just as an art historian looking at this stuff for 40 some years, the persistence and consistency numerically. Oh, thank God. Oh, that's wonderful. 12 is an important number. It's always been. So the 12-storied pagoda. Of our cranial nerves, this is very relevant to inner children, by the way, and to nervous system regulation. I'm getting on a soapbox here, okay? I'm having an opinion. The 12 nerves of our head, the 12 cranial nerves that start with the olfactory and end with the hypoglossal, with our tongue, starts with the nose and ends with the tongue. First of all, how many people lost smell and taste in 2020? Disruption at the beginning and the end of the chain. But those 12 nerves, they do not go into or through our central nervous system. So it's like we have the brain, and then those 12 nerves come out of the brain and go into the body and do the things. Our stress responses, our trauma response, our experience of pain, the way that we become aware of and like alert to certain kinds of stimuli happen a couple different ways. One way is it's coming in, the other way it's coming up. What do you want? Do you need some food? Let me give him some food. Maybe he'll calm down a bit. I'll be right back. Come on, let's go get a little bit of food. I can make some toast. Here, buddy. Yeah. You're a very important kitty. I would never, ever forget that. Look. Yeah. I'm just making a piece of toast. I'll be right back. Enjoy the strange art. And here's Darla. Okay, I have 4 minutes before my toast is done. Meow. They say hi, Darla. Meow. So the cranial nerves are cranial nerves. Then we have our central nervous system, spine, spinal cord, brain, spinal cord. Spinal cord lives in the spine. In the spine, we have all these noodly appendages that come out, which are also peripheral nerves. When a human is dysregulated, okay, that can be because we're having a feeling on our own of, oh my goodness, I'm upset, or I just noticed I'm dissociating, or what? That's Darla. But sometimes people say that we're dysregulated or we're not correct in our affect because of how they perceive us, not because of what's actually happening. And for those of us who are neurodivergent in any direction, or not in the dominant culture, meaning disabled, oppressed, marginalized, not white heterosexual men, seriously. And a lot of that has to do with how the data. Aw, Gray Gray says hi. Do you want a little bit of something too? Okay. Come here, baby girl. Yes. Oh my goodness. Darla, you could go to the doctor today. Move. Come here. Here, Darla. There you go, Darla. This is Darla. Okay, she's back. So sorry. The cats, okay. So what we were talking about regulating the nervous system and the idea you made a cat out of water. I love it. I love it. Nervous system regulation is based on measuring heart rate variability and other like many minor muscle things in the face. Okay. Resonating our nervous system, to be in a place of resonance, is genuinely, if you're regulated or not, you need a third thing so that you can move between or exist liminally in complex realities. Liminal as in between, in a way that is like supported and feels more like buoyancy than free falling. And if we're just trying to get our heart rate to a place, or our eyes to a place, our behavior to a place, our response to an idea to a place, and this whole flippin' concept of cognitive distortions, which is fully bullshit in CBT, fully bullshit in DBT, full absolute, those are rebranded logical fallacies from rhetoric. So when you and I go, oh, I'm in a distortion, and we're not talking about the cognitive distortion of perception, we're talking about a logical distortion. First of all, that's top down. Secondly, we're not in an even dynamic with our care providers. I'm not saying that the CBT, DBT is not useful. I'm saying that a cognitive distortion in that context is a factor of logic and rhetoric, not truth. It's just not. I piss so many people off when I say that. But the training that I've received, okay, at like Carnegie Mellon and from medical doctors and from the inventor of the CD-ROM, and as I was building Web 1.0 and like consciousness, okay, and then the training I've received from somebody like Bessel van der Kolk, who invented the term post-traumatic stress, or Peter Levine, who's very big in trauma, or Stephen Porges, who invented polyvagal theory. When I'm trained with them, they sound like psychiatrists. They do not sound like doctors. You and I are one whole entity. We are a whole being. And we are planetary in nature. We are earthly in nature. I know people love to ascend and become 5D. Go for it. But truly, like, we're creatures of the planet. It's like a forced, it feels like compliance to me. It feels like compliance. I love cognitive tools. I think they're amazing. But to be in a distortion based on an idea, and then to be corrected in my distortion based on the dominant paradigm, makes me curious about, am I in a distortion, or am I distorting whatever reality is supposed to be for other people's comfort? Clearly, I'm not speaking about psychosis, or like I really do dissociate, like genuinely, like not like that. I'm talking about like tone policing, or the way children are sometimes labeled antisocial or defiant when they're in pain. And as we grow into our body minds and into the world, those become those become patterns as well. So something that China does with its alchemy is, and very much me, is whatever you are today is what you are today right now, whole and complete, regardless of your challenges, regardless of your pain and suffering and wounds, whole ass human. There is not one space that I have been able to identify in any medical context that bubbles up to the American Medical Association or the American Psychological Association or the American Psychiatric Association, there is not one space there that starts with a body that is whole and alive. Those all start with the assumption of wrong, of breaking, of disordered or dis whatever. And the lens, especially as psychiatry, those lenses are not through life. They're through the slave trade specifically. They're through commerce. And so when we're trying to get better or feel better, especially if we're newly disabled or we have like a new awareness of a neurotype, like if you just found out that you're autistic or ADHD, all of the childhood conditioning that we've had and all of the ways, sorry, I'm allergic to mold in my cat and it's winter, so, but I'm going to keep my cats, okay? It's almost like you have to this is tea. It's almost like we have to reparent ourselves once we are in a healing space. And I'm also of the opinion, honestly, that there is no such thing as post in traumatic stress anymore for us, especially here in the United States. It's just traumatic stress. It's just stress. And I find that to be a very liberating way to contemplate because I can grow while I'm experiencing upset. I may not feel good in it, but I mean, just think about it. Your hair doesn't stop growing. The cells regenerate. The stomach is digesting. Things are still happening. They may not be happening ideally, but our body is still bodying. This whole concept of a freeze, a functional freeze, if you have not had some sort of experience where it is so severe, there's a fracture, there's a dissociation, you lose mobility or anything like that. Oh, thank you. I love you back. Okay. Then we're just in like murky, muddy waters. I'm also stating in my work, geneticists told you understand issues. A geneticist helped you understand your issues. Yes, of course they did. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think I've mentioned before, this is tea. I need to get my toast. I'll be right back. Butter toast. Best breakfast right now. All right. Scoliosis. Whoa, 97. Oh my gosh. "90 is a right angle. 90 is the spine going from this to this. That's hardcore. Wow, 90. The lens of medicine is the lens of disease, and the pathos in the rhetoric of medicine is not the pathos in the rhetoric of virtue. So there's pathos, logos, and ethos, the body, the word, and the ethics. But pathos in Western medicine turns into disease. Yeah, my master's degree is in rhetoric. from CMU. And it's the way that I was studying propaganda specifically, actually, after World War II. Very political girl. Your throat chakra is blocked. Okay, first of all, why is somebody telling you something about your body if you don't even know what a chakra is for it? With your rabbit hole, I'll tell you more. Greg, seriously, the chakras, just to describe them, the chakras are envisioned as swirly whirly flower-like structures that emanate at the ends of our nerves. There are, and they're vagal in nature, as in like vagus nerve in nature, but they are coming from our central nervous system, from the spine. And those are, I don't work with chakras because they're so warming, but I think it's really rude to tell somebody that they have a block if the human doesn't already understand what the chakra is that you're being guided to. Extreme HEDS. Okay. MCAS, dysautonomia, and HEDS. Fascia, our connective tissue, is built as, it's called tensegrity. And this is a model of tensegrity. So tensegrity, it's a design and a architecture principle. I use it with information and consciousness. Most people use it with objects. But what tensegrity says is there are two fixed points and one that can move. Two fixed points, one that moves. Two fixed point, one that moves. Two fixed points, one that moves. This part here would be like walking on a tightrope. This is like the cables that hold a bridge together. When the structure has structural integrity, which is what tensegrity means, it's resilient to both compression and stretch. Okay. Those of us who have unique connective tissue experiences like hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos, or if you have a lot of like the scoliosis reality is going to kind of create parts of your tensegrity structure as it should move, but it doesn't, just because of the curvature of everything. Hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos and everything is an experience of whatever these connecting factors are in our tissue of being too lax. So like if you ever have like workout clothes for a long time and they start to not be as they just get stretched out, it's like that's our tissue. But that is our tissue. That means that is the walls of our nerves, the myelin sheath. It is the walls of our arteries and veins. It is the dura and the arachnoid matter and the other matter that like holds our flippin' brain in our skull together. It is the pathways themselves behave differently just because the environment that we have on the inside is different. I'm starting to use the word extraordinary because it's lovely. Get your book to write this down. You've learned from your geneticist to regulate it through your breath. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. It's wonderful. The tissue's integrity. Yeah. So there is a medical doctor I've studied with. Let me grab one of his books. Hold on. Jean-Claude Gumbertu. Jean-Claude Gumbertu, he is a Frenchman. I am not a French lady. But this is his book. If you want to invest in something, this is worth the investment if you're fascinated by fascia. It's called Architecture of Living Tissue. Jane Paul. I just posted a little clip of his on my account last night. He's a hand surgeon. And what he does is he takes video of his surgeries when he is doing his hand surgeries so that we can see what the tissue looks like. So here are micro volumes under pressure. When a surgeon makes an incision in the skin and parts the tissues to gain deeper access, small bubbles appear. Look at that, little baby bubbles. Then he's so incredible. Let me see. This is beautiful. So this is what our tissue actually, this is the structure of fascia, the architecture of fascia, our connective tissue. That's literal, actual strings. They're strings, like in string theory. Stick around, mandala. Yes, weavers. He's a weaver for sure. When you buy it, you get access to his media library. That's why you should get it. So you can look at, he's thousands of hours. Excitopedia, rice paper that lifts up to show another part. Oh, yeah, that sounds really super cool. And very much, I love it because you know what? Our connective tissue is a little bit like a little sheet also that you would lift up. But when people say that the body keeps the score, okay, the body is the score. Bessel van der Kolk. Hello. You know what? I don't have a discount. It's Handspring Publishing. So they're an academic. This is like a medical textbook. But Majestic Rose, you should get the free stuff. Seriously, spend the $20 if you have it on the media library that I give you, and join whatever it is. You will not watch surgery. Well, I'm really glad that I showed it as well. I have spent so much time navigating tissue with this man's camera, and I have 100% aphantasia. I do not see anything. And spiritual perspective, would you write me a little bit of a testimonial and send it to my little DM zone so I can make myself look exciting? I have to do case studies today, but I'm also taking my cat to the doctor and I'm nervous about that. So this is what we're doing this morning. Here. It's like we have our own little spider web. You can read what he's written. Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy that you're telling people. Thank you. Oh, this is going to tell me I'm done. Hold on. Let me do that. You wanted to be a surge tech. That's really cool. That's very, very cool. I am for 2025. My primary aim is to bring this down from the stratosphere because that's where I'm the happiest, and make it practical again because I can be practical. So today at 6:00 Eastern time, I'll be guiding the practices and guiding fitness, fascial fitness, which is not fascia blasting. Okay. We're not blasting our fascia. Oh, no. Our fascia just needs a little bit of movement, needs a little bit of stretch, needs a little bit of encouragement. But this is where we experience a lot of pain. Our pain pathways are in these tissues. Okay. Our doctors, I will tell you, unilaterally, at least here in the United States, have a zero relationship to our connective tissue. Zero. I don't know what the rheumatology connection is, because rheumatologists are going to get us more into the EDS and arthritis experiences, but truly, doctors don't pay attention to fascia. They pay attention to blood pressure. They pay attention to how are we behaving, because that's easier to measure. It's not their fault. Also, we did a lot of our early medical, discoveries using other people's living bodies without their permission. Western medicine is biased towards intervention. That is what the term is, intervene, to intervene, literally. They're called medical interventions. I was once trained by a medical doctor, and I say medical doctor distinct from psychiatrist, because psychiatry also has MDs, but they don't operate as medical doctors. That, I don't remember what I was going to say. So we're just going to let that go. Hold on, I just got distracted by some sounds. So anyway, if we have flaccid fascia, thank you, intervention. That Western medicine is based on the idea of an intervention. Something very massive happened in our collective consciousness in the mid-20th century. I'm a Gen Xer, just so we know. But something really major happened in the 50s and early 60s. This guy, Dr. Peter Safar, who was one of the humans who raised me, actually. I grew up with him. He was my father's piano student. Dr. Peter Safar figured out how to make life support. He's a cardiologist. He invented rapid intubation and life support as a way to do necromancy, really, is what life support is. It's necromancy. That happened in the 50s, 60s. It was tested, intervention. It was tested in the poorest hospitals in Pittsburgh, Hill District, etc., downtown. And that's significant because this advancement in technology and medical technology had risks associated with it. So as a kid, I was like, oh my gosh, he did this amazing thing. He invented the emergency department. The whole way that we do emergency now is because of Dr. Peter Safar. The way that we do emergency, and I'm just going to tell you this as a human who has done a lot of global logistics, emergency medicine works like war, straight up. And the Vietnam War was the first war to integrate life support into the lived experience of soldiers. There is no way that does not become an epigenetic event. So epigenetics, these patterns, right? The patterns in our tissues, just like patterns in our DNA or whatever, patterns in our tissues can change over time with kind, a little bit of, but not a ton of, but if we're intervening, if we're contemplating brain dead, which is sentient, by the way. When somebody is, they say that a person is brain dead, but they're speaking to sentience. Mr. Dr. Peter Safar, however, okay, you got your training for military doctors. Mr. Peter Safar, sweet little old man, he used to come to the house and was a really nice pianist. And then when my father had his first major heart attack first, Peter pulled my mother aside and said they'd never come back the same. The doctors won't tell you this. They never come back the same. I always thought he was speaking to humans experiencing that. He was speaking to wars as well. He knew he messed up. He saw it. He knew he messed up. He meant life support itself. It is not natural to have to not. I do not make any moral. I have a major ethical issue with this. I make no moral. There is no moral in this at all for me. None. In order for CPR to work, a human's brain has to have stopped. Circulation has stopped. The heart has stopped. The lungs have stopped. So what we need to do now is you have to break the sternum. That's the chest plate. That's our armor. No, they don't. My father was a ghost. I have a friend who's been in and out of ICU for a couple months. He's having such a hard time. Life support takes over the auto magic. It takes it over. And it is a problem. Normie, Jack is here. When Jack Smash arrives, we have to get Normie involved. That's his thing. You hate the sternum stuff especially. So what happens, life support is an NDE. To be intubated is to experience a near-death experience. Whether or not you're conscious or awake to it, that's what it is. The reason that I'm speaking about epigenetics, and I really want please come find me on YouTube. Like, I'm really going to start doing YouTube videos now. Okay. Thank you. It is fascinating. It is also humane. It's humane. So here's what's happening with all of your, thank you. And it's a shit channel, so I have a lot of work to do, but I cannot be here after July 20 or January. I will be, but I'm not supposed to be. Okay. Oh my goodness. Hi, it's Darla. So if they never come back the same, and the Majestic Rose, let me put it this way. My master's degree centered the propaganda of post-World War II Europe and US. Hi. Do you want to sit on the chair? Sometimes she has to sit on the chair. Come on, sit on the chair. We have to get on the floor because I only do what Darla says. She's my nursemaid. She's my mother. Hi. You can't see me. Now you can. All right. We're on the floor, Darla. You can sit where you want to go. Actually, let me say goodbye to YouTube. And then I don't have to pay